We interrupt your regularly scheduled broadcast.
Hey, Charlene. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Cargo.
Cargo who?
No, cargo beep, beep.
Go beep, go beep, beep. Get to it.
Hi friends, can you believe it? 2020 is almost over, and that means it's time for a whole new year, 2020. I'm Miss Trudy from the Maine Discovery Museum, and I'm here to share with you one of the really fun New Year's activities that we used to do at the museum. Sadly, we can't see you at the museum this year, but this is a very fun and easy craft you can do at home to celebrate that whole new year that's just coming right around the corner in just a few weeks. So, I'm going to show you how to make hats and noisemakers out of stuff that you have lying around your house. All you need is maybe some basic craft supplies like scissors, glue or tape or a stapler, and crayons or markers, and maybe some sparkles, and save your Christmas wrappings and ribbons, because you can use them to make your hats and noisemakers even more special. People all over the world celebrate the New Year. It's not always at the same time, believe it or not. There are some children and families that celebrate New Year at a different time of the year, but a lot of people celebrate it at the stroke of midnight, December 31st to January 1st. And pretty much everybody celebrates the New Year and says goodbye to the old year by making a whole bunch of noise. I'm pretty sure you guys know all about making noises at home, right? So how come people celebrate the New Year and say goodbye, old year, with noisemakers? That's because many cultures believe that the old year got really comfortable and doesn't want to leave, so you have to chase it out the door by making a bunch of noise. And it's also considered good luck to make a bunch of noise. How can you make a bunch of noise with stuff that you have laying around your house? Well, number one, my very favorite recyclable item, of course, is our old friend, the toilet paper roll. Toilet paper rolls and paper towel rolls are very useful for so many different projects. And by just adding some beans or rice or corn and gluing the top and bottom shut, you can make a very impressive, very noisy noisemaker. Let's see if you can guess which one of those two has beans and which one of those two has rice. You ready? It's really loud. Here we go. So here's the first one. And here's the second one. Which one has rice and which one has corn? What do you think? Now you can make these two guys even louder, believe it or not, if you change it up a little bit. So this one is the same paper towel tool, just squashed flat. Do you see that? How it's all squashed flat? And somehow that makes it even louder. And if you want to go extra fancy and really make this all about the new year, you could turn your paper tube into a rocket by just saving some of that shiny wrapping paper that you get and cutting it into a cone shape for the top of your rocket. And this is just a little bit of ribbon that we saved from last year's Christmas presents. And do the same thing, and ta-da! Now you have a New Year's rocket for your counter. And here's an idea to make some more noise. These are just two plastic cups, so let's see what they sound like. That's even louder. And of course, there's the ever popular drums that you can make out of almost everything in your house, including your own head. Just kidding, just be very gentle. So for the drums, all you need is some kind of container, right? And a drumstick. So I have this. Can you guess what this was? This was an oatmeal container. And this is an old cookie tin. And here are my drumsticks. So I'm using just bamboo skewers, shish kebab skewers that I had laying around the museum, and I glue different things to the top. Guess which one of them is going to make the most noise? Which one is going to make the biggest racket? Well, let's try it out. Here's one with a wooden bead. This one has a very fancy bead. It makes a totally different sound. If you don't want it to be too noisy, this one has a cork on the top, so this is a little softer. You can use almost everything to turn it into a drum. Just go to your kitchen and look in the pots and pans drawer. I bet you can find all sorts of things to make yourself a very impressive drum. Now, no party would be complete without a party hat, right? So what if you don't have a party hat? Do you have paper? I bet if you do, you can make yourself a party hat. So once again, we saved some of the gift wrap and ribbon and tinsel and a regular piece of colored paper and sort of cut it into a round shape. This isn't big enough for a cone, but you don't need a full cone shape to make a cone-shaped hat. I have a pretty big hat, and look, I made myself a nice cone-shaped hat, and I didn't even need a whole triangle kind of cone. So get a piece of paper and cut a piece off in sort of a round shape. If you're worried about this being symmetrical, and if you're a stickler for detail, you could fold the paper in half, oops, and then just cut half a circle, because when you open it up, you can have all perfect circle. And this is where you need to make some holes. So after you cut it out, your whole shape looks like this. And the little tassel, the very festive and special tassel, is just a bunch of little pieces of leftover ribbon and leftover garland that we tape, or you can glue it or staple it, to the top of your hat. Not the bottom, because this is that part, the top. Once you've done that, and you've tied your strings on, all you have to do is kind of roll this into a cone. I'm going to go real slow, okay? So you have your festive tassel. You don't need it, but I love them because they're so sparkly and they make me feel so special. You should decorate and write on this first, because it's awfully hard to decorate and write on a 3D shape. It's easier on a flat piece of paper. So one more time. Piece of paper. Snip, 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 snip. Punch, punch. And this is the top. Here is where the tassel goes. Decorate, write your New Year's message on it. And then you have to just roll it and fold it into a cone. Like this. Like an ice cream cone. See? Like that. Like so. And then tape it, or glue it, or staple it together in the back. And you are ready for the party of the year. And go ahead. So how should you celebrate the New Year? Well, lots of people stay up till midnight, because once the clock starts counting down, that's when the old year ends and the new year starts. But guess what, friends? Because of science and the Earth's rotational force around its own axis and its travels around the sun, midnight is at different times all over the world. So when it's our 6 o'clock in the evening, it's midnight over on the other half of the world. So you can really do the countdown to midnight at any time. You don't have to stay up till very late, because that's kind of hard sometimes. So when you're ready to do your countdown, let's say at 6 o'clock, because it's halfway to midnight, or at 1 o'clock, you can do this any way you want. It's your party. So when you pick your perfect party time, say that 10 times fast, I picked my perfect party time, and you get all decked out in your best party hats, and you have some really loud noisemakers, it's time for your countdown. And I bet you guys are very good at counting down, even backwards, right? And you don't even have to start at 100, you start at 10. So you count down from 10 to 1, and then right after the 1, noise! Yay! Bang! Rattle! Clang, clang, clang! Happy New Year! Okay? So let's do a practice run, right? I'm going to take my rocket noise maker because it's my favorite one. I'm going to use that. And we're going to do a practice run. Are you guys ready? You want to practice with me? Okay, here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! And because everybody around the world does it, I can teach you how the children and families in my home country do it, because in case you didn't notice, I sound a little weird, right? That's because I'm not an American. I'm from Germany. So the Germans count using a different language. Are you ready? You want to practice with me? Let's use our fingers, okay? Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Frohes neues Jahr! Oh my gosh, you guys, I was so excited. My hat slid right off my head. That happens sometimes when you get really excited. But anyways, I bet if you ask around in your family, people can count from 10 to 0 and wish each other a Happy New Year in lots of different languages. I've heard children count in Spanish and Italian and in Chinese and in Japanese and in Czech and in Russian when we were celebrating here at the museum. So, have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Have a great new year. Stay up if you can. Celebrate with your family. Hold them close. And from all of us at the Maine Discovery Museum, Miss Trudy, Miss Miranda, Mr. Niles, Miss Autumn, Miss Tina, Mr. Lucas. Am I forgetting somebody? I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. All the animals and the ship and the treehouse and the river and the dinosaurs. We wish you a very, very happy new year. We miss you, and we'll see you next year.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow who?
Ooh.
Oh, good one.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and Happy New Year from the Bangor Public Library. Wherever you're watching us from today, we hope that you are safe and happy and healthy. I know most of us are pretty ready to say goodbye to this year and welcome in a new year. So what better to do that with a little bit of food, a little bit of fun, and hopefully we can do that for you tonight. So I have 15 minutes to show you how to make 4 really quick foods. We're going to do a drink tonight. We're going to do a very easy taco dip. We're going to do fried tortellini, and then we're going to do a special dessert, an indoor s'more. So hopefully you have looked at the recipe already. You've got your oil heating up. That should be around 350. You've got your oven on broiler, and hopefully you had a chance to cook off the tortellini and let that either be at room temperature, or like me, I cooked it off yesterday and I took it out about 10 minutes ago to let it kind of warm up a little bit. And then everything else is ready to go. We're going to go through this pretty quick, but these are all really easy to make, so hopefully I'm not going too fast for you guys, and hopefully this all works out. So we are going to start with the drink. So the drink is super easy to make. It is just ginger ale and whatever juice you've picked. So at the library, when we do our juices, or our library punch, it is white grape juice. So I'm using white grape juice, but if you prefer apple juice or fruit punch, whatever you prefer, we're just going to do a 50-50 blend. And I'm just going to eyeball it. If you like it a little fizzier, use a little more ginger ale. If you like it less fizzy, use a little less ginger ale. And I'm going to leave a little bit of room in my cup for our little surprise. Normally we don't put sherbet in the punch while we're here. We just put ice, which is fine. If you just want to use the ice, that's totally fine. But I thought, why not kick it up a little bit? So we're going to do our 50-50. And we are going to leave just enough room for our sherbet. We're gonna let that kind of melt in to our ginger ale juice mixture. As that sherbet melts, it's gonna become silky and smooth, and it's gonna add sort of like a nice creaminess to our drink. And that's it for the drink. Drink is super simple, and we're all done. We're gonna move on to our taco dip. Now, unfortunately, we had a little bit of an issue with our sound recording, and it wasn't recording audio through the last time I made the dip. So hopefully it's recording now. I don't have extra ingredients, but I can tell you how super simple this is to make. I don't need a recipe. I don't even need the ingredients in front of me. All we're going to do is you're going to take out your sour cream, and you're going to pour that into a bowl. You're going to take out your taco seasoning and pour it in. If you prefer not to have a strong taco flavor, you can use half a packet of the taco seasoning. If you prefer the stronger, go ahead and put it all in. I always recommend sort of erring on the side of caution, put a little bit less in. You can always add in, you can't take out. So start with a half a packet if you don't really like the strong taste of taco, and then kind of work your way up. Just pour in a half, stir it, and give it a taste. If you think it needs more, add more. And then you're going to open up your cheese. We'll pretend that we're opening our cheese. And we're going to dump it in, and you're going to stir that in. And that is how simple our taco dip is to make. Now, this is going to be better if you let this sit for 5 or 10 minutes in the refrigerator. 15, 20 is even better. And that is done. So we have half of our foods already made. We've got our drink made and our taco dip. Now we are going to make our fried tortellini. So this is going to take the longest amount of time. Okay, so I have, like I said, I've got my tortellini. It's already set to go. It's already been cooked. Now it's back up to room temperature. So now we are just going to get our dry ingredients. So if you've ever fried anything, it's almost always the same process. Into a wet ingredients, into the dry ingredients, into the oil. Some people like to put an extra stage at the beginning and to dunk stuff in flour, but this is already flour and it's already pretty starchy, so you don't really need it. So we're just going to do the milk mixture and the crumb mixture. So we're going to start with our dry ingredients. So it's just 2 cups of panko breadcrumbs, which is what I have in here. And about a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. I eyeball this as well because I like the flavor of the cheese. And if I put in a little extra, oops. All right, this is our granulated garlic and salt. And I don't know if I put this on the recipe or not, but I put a little bit of Italian seasoning in, just basil, thyme, oregano. Just a little pop of color and a little extra flavor. Doesn't need it, so if you don't have it, don't worry about it. All right, we're going to zip the bag up, and we're going to give it a shake. Dry ingredients are done. That's how simple that is. The wet ingredients are even easier. So we're going to put in about a cup of milk. And 1 egg. And we're just going to whisk this together until the egg is nice and incorporated. Okay, that's looking good. So we want to do this in batches. I have an electric fryer, which makes it easier for me because I can set the heat for 350 and I don't have to worry about it. It regulates the heat for me. If you don't have that, it's fine. If you're just sort of heating oil in a fry pan, that's fine too. If you want to know if it's up to temperature or not, just take a couple of your breadcrumbs and dump them in. If they start to fizzle and float immediately, you know you're kind of right about where you want to be. Okay, so we're going to work in batches. I'm going to do this in about thirds. So I'm going to take a third of my tortellini and put it into my milk egg mixture. Give it a good soaking. And then I'm just going to shake off the excess and put it right into the breadcrumbs. And then just give the bag a shake just to coat the tortellini. and then right into the fryer. Super easy. So you want to work these in a single layer. You don't really want them to be on top of each other. And these are only going to cook. These cook super fast because they're already cooked. We pre-cooked them. So they're only going to take about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so you're going to know that these are done. They're going to turn a nice golden brown. They're all going to start sort of floating to the surface. You don't really want to crowd the oil. You want to leave enough room. If you crowd the oil, it sort of cools the oil down, and then it really just sort of soaks into the tortellini. Then you get like a really heavy, kind of oily flavored tortellini. That's not what we're going for. We want a nice light fry. They're going to turn a nice golden brown, and they're all going to be floating, and that's how you're going to know that they're done. So we're just going to take them out, and we are going to put them on a paper towel lined plate just to let any of that excess oil drip off. If you really like a heavy salt, this would be the time to salt them, but we already added salt to the breadcrumbs, so they don't really need to be salted any more than they are. But if you really like a heavy salt, go ahead before the oil dries, kind of give them a little salt. And that is going to be it. You have nice fried tortellini. So that's how easy that is. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the dessert real quick. And again, whatever you have left, it cooks the exact same way. And it cooks really quick, 2 to 3 minutes, and you're done. So we're going to move on to our dessert. So we're going to do indoor s'mores. So if you grew up in Maine or live in Maine now, I'm assuming at some point you've had a s'more. This time of year, it's a little difficult because it's really cold outside and you don't really want to go outside and make a fire. So why not bring the s'mores indoors? So it's going to be the exact same way you make a s'more outside. You've got graham cracker. I actually prefer the cinnamon graham cracker, but if you want to try the chocolate or if you want to just stick with the traditional honey, that's fine. I've got my marshmallow and I've got my chocolate bar. And again, I'm not necessarily a traditionalist when it comes to s'mores. My favorite is actually the peanut butter cup. But if you want any other sort of candy bar, feel free to do that. It's your party. You can do what you want. But I do recommend you get the snack sized. So hopefully you saw that note to get the snack size. It just fits on the graham cracker better and it's a little bit easier to work with. So hopefully you're trying something new, but if you're a traditionalist, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We are going to throw these into the oven. So this is why we needed the oven on broiling. These take no time at all. 30 to 40 seconds, these things are done. In 50 seconds, they're pretty much on fire. So you really don't want to take your eye off these. So while those are cooking, I did forget to mention, I serve these with a little bit of marinara sauce. This is just store-bought marinara sauce. If you've got your own marinara sauce that you love to make, and you've made that, that's perfectly fine. But just to make things easier for tonight, we went store-bought. Let these cool for just a couple of minutes because that cheese on the inside is runny and just super lava hot right now. So give it a couple minutes. These are even good at room temperature. Let these kind of set out. You can kind of nibble on these as the night goes on. So we're going to check our Okay, so these will get the nice sort of charred color on them, but they won't get the smoke flavor. If you're expecting the smoke flavor, you're not going to get that. But what you will get when these are sort of cool enough to hold is you take it and you just mash the two together and you get that nice gooey marshmallow and the melted chocolate. You see how it all kind of melts together? So you may want to give those a minute or two. That's really hot. That's actually even hotter than the tortellini right now. But that's it. That's how simple it is to make an indoor s'more. No time at all. All right, so I hope you get to enjoy all of this yummy food tonight, and I really hope you get to enjoy the rest of the festivities tonight. We've got some great programs lined up for you, so hopefully you guys have fun, you eat well, and wherever you are, we hope you're happy and safe, and we hope you have a happy new year. Hey, Candace. Knock, knock.
Peekaboo! Okay. Who's there?
Spell.
Spell who?
All right, WHO.
Welcome back to another round of Guess the Instrument. If you've guessed correctly the past 2 times, awesome job, but I'm going to try to stump you for this one. Clue number 1. This instrument is conical shaped. We talked about our last instrument being cylindrical. This next one is conical. Think about like a cone. Clue number 2, this instrument is a woodwind instrument. Clue number 3, this instrument is a double reeded instrument. And clue number 4, this instrument gives the tuning note for the orchestra to tune before they play a concert. And clue number 5, I'm going to step off screen and play something for you. And listen and see if you can recognize which instrument this is. Have I stumped you? Did you guess the oboe? If you did, great job, because I tried to stump you. The oboe looks a lot like the clarinet that we talked about last week, but there's some differences. First of all, it sounds a lot different. Second of all, the oboe is a double reeded instrument. We talked last week about the clarinet being a single reed, that one little piece of wood. The oboe mouthpiece up here is smaller than the clarinet mouthpiece. And it has 2 pieces of wood on it, a double reed. So if you look closely, you can see there are 2 pieces of wood there, and those 2 pieces of wood vibrate together to make the sound for the oboe. So if I blow into this, you can hear this is how the oboe produces sound. The oboe is a woodwind instrument. Most oboes are made of wood. Some are made of plastic, but most of them are made of wood. The oboe comes from an older instrument called the shawm, and it was developed from there. And the oboe is the instrument that if you've been to a concert before the concert begins, before the orchestra starts playing, there is what we call a tuning note. And the tuning note is played by the oboe. It's a concert A pitch. And the oboe will play it, and the rest of the orchestra will join in to match that pitch. So it will sound kind of like this. And the rest of the orchestra joins in. So next time you go to a concert, listen for that tuning note, and that first note is coming from the oboe. Now the oboe is my primary instrument, so instead of me playing something here, I wanted to play something else for you. It is a little tiny piece of the minuet from a Beethoven trio for 2 oboes and an English horn. An English horn is like a larger oboe. So I hope you enjoy this little excerpt from Beethoven's minuet. Double reed party! welcome back to another round of Guess the Instrument. I will give you 5 clues and you need to guess which instrument I'm referring to. Clue number 1. This instrument comes in many different sizes. Clue number 2. This instrument is the highest sounding instrument in its family. Clue number 3. Parts of this instrument include the scroll, the fingerboard, the bridge, and the bow. Clue number 4. This instrument produces sound using strings to vibrate. And clue number 5, I'm going to step to the side and play it for you. Did you guess the violin? Great job. The violin, as I said, comes in many different sizes, and I don't mean that in the way that the violin is part of the string family and there are bigger sizes. We call those different instruments like the viola, the cello, and the double bass. I mean specifically that the violin itself can come in different sizes. This violin I'm holding is not a full-size violin. It's meant for a student who maybe isn't big enough to use a full-size violin. And I think this is one of the coolest things about this instrument is that you can start learning as young as 3 years old because they make violins in different sizes for different size students. So if you or someone you know might have too small of hands to reach the holes in the clarinet, or maybe they're just not strong enough to hold up a trumpet, but they really want to learn an instrument, this is a fantastic option. So let's talk about the parts of the violin a little bit. So the violin has a bow. This is a violin bow. On one side we have what's called the hair, and you don't want to touch that hair. And the bow goes across the strings. There are 4 strings on the violin. We have G, D, A, and E. So we have the G, which is the biggest string, so it's going to be the lowest. Then we have D, A, and then the highest string, which is the thinnest, is the E string. The strings are stretched across what's called the bridge right here. This is called the bridge. And the fingerboard. And the fingerboard is where you're going to put your fingers to change the notes on the string. So when a violin player presses on the string, on the fingerboard, they're making the string shorter or longer. The longer the string is, the lower the sound. The shorter the string is, the higher the sound. So when you are playing the violin, if you have your finger closer to the bridge, you're making the string shorter. And when you go closer to what's called the scroll at the top, you're making the string longer. So if we go from the scroll to the bridge, the sound should get higher because we're making it shorter. And vice versa backwards. Most of the time, violin players use their bow to have the strings vibrate. Sometimes they use their fingers and do something called pizzicato, where they pluck the string with their finger. But most of the time, they use the bow. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the violin. Before we go, I wanted to introduce you to my friend Lynn, and she is going to play the violin for you and show you how beautiful a violin can sound even on a simple tune.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Owls say.
Owls say who?
Yes, they do.
Oh! Oh!
Happy New Year and welcome to the Fields Pond Audubon Center. My name's David, and tonight we're going to learn a little bit more about my friend up here, the snowy owl. But to help me out, I have two friends joining me, Melissa and Molly. I'm going to hand it over to Melissa right now, who's going to share a story about a special snowy owl who showed up here in Maine.
Hi everybody, my name is Melissa Kim and I'm here to read you a story about owls. It's called A Snowy Owl Story. A Snowy Owl Story is based on a true story of one owl's journey from the Arctic to Portland, Maine. A Snowy Owl Story, written by Melissa Kim and illustrated by Jada Fitch. One winter day, a young snowy owl went out to hunt. Her home, the Arctic tundra, was cold and windy. She fit in well. She had warm white feathers. She was good at finding food. She spotted her favorite meal, a lemming. But another snowy owl beat her to it. The tundra was crowded this year. Too many owls, not enough lemmings. So the owl flew south to look for more food. She flew for hundreds of miles. She found food, but also people everywhere. It was not like her home at all. She kept flying. An airport? Too noisy. A beach? Too many dogs. She flew near a harbor. Noises coming from a dark building made her curious. She squeezed through a gap. Pigeons flapped and fluttered. The owl was comfortable there. People saw the big white bird. They were worried that the owl was trapped inside the building. They called the fire department. A fireman came to help. He opened a window. But the owl did not fly out. So a bird expert came. Gently, she put a blanket over the owl. She took the owl to a broad, snowy field. The owl saw mice, ducks, and squirrels. She saw a cold, windy place. The owl stayed here until spring. Then she flew back to her true home in the Arctic. The end. After working on a snowy owl story, I decided that I really wanted to learn how to draw an owl. So I asked the illustrator, Jada Fitch, if she would teach me. I can't draw anything, and Jada is amazing. She can draw any kind of bird or animal. And she said she would try to teach me because she said owls are one of the easiest birds to draw, partly because they have this great oval shape, a simple shape, and because of their eyes. So owls are birds of prey, they're predators, and they, like other birds of prey, have eyes that are in the front of their face, forward facing, unlike other birds whose eyes are on the side of their heads. So she said she would try to teach me. These are notes from when she tried to teach me. She drew one and then I practiced. So now I'm going to teach you how to do it. If I can do it, you can do it. So all you need is a piece of paper, any kind of paper at all, and a pen, pencil, marker, crayons, anything you like. So go grab your supplies and we'll get started. So to warm up, you just need to know how to draw a few very simple shapes. An oval, which is just like an egg. And you can see I'm really not very good. So draw a few ovals to practice. You'll need to be able to draw some simple lines, a V shape, or a triangle if you want to practice. And then the only shape that's a little bit tricky is a crescent, like a crescent moon. And because I'm not good at this, Jada said draw a circle and then take a little bite out of it. So take an eraser if you have a pencil and just go like that. And that's a great way to practice drawing a crescent. So a circle with a bite, and then you can practice drawing that shape. And you can fill in your crescent once you get to that point. And then all you have to do is put all those pieces together. Ready? Draw a nice big oval. See how messy it is? It really doesn't matter because nature's kind of messy. Then draw 2 ovals like this. Draw your crescents right in the middle. I'm going to do the eraser kind. Fill them in if you like. And then your V shape for the beak, like that. A couple of lines make for some feathers and markings. Maybe a few V's to make claws. A couple of V's with a line in it look like claws. And if you want to add a few hints of a wing, a few shallow V's on the side to hint at the wing. There's your barred owl. Maybe give it a branch to sit on, so it looks like it's not just floating. And there's your owl. Here's some sample owls some other young people have drawn just to inspire you. You can add color, you can add a few tufts on the top to make a great horned owl, and pretty much anything you want. Add wings to make the owl fly. Really, your imagination is your only limit. Have fun!
As we saw in a snowy owl story, owls are predators that have to hunt for their food. And an adaptation is something about an animal's body or the way that it acts that helps it survive. And if we look at an owl, I bet that we could notice some of the adaptations that help it to be a better hunter. So I'm going to show you 2 photos of a snowy owl and a great horned owl. And I want you to look at them really closely and think about what you notice that might help those owls to be better hunters. Did you notice some adaptations? Often the first one that I think about are the claws that you can see on an owl's feet. And those are called its talons. If you want to imagine that your hands are an owl's feet and you've got your talons right here, what they do is they reach out and they grab their food. They are raptors. This is also true for other birds of prey like eagles and hawks and falcons and osprey. They all reach out and grab their food. But if we look at the feet of a snowy owl, there's something else I want you to notice. It's an adaptation for surviving in a very cold habitat like the Arctic tundra. You might be noticing these feathers. They're so fluffy that they almost look like fur. But owls that live in really cold places, even owls that are in Maine, have feathers that cover almost all the way to their toes. And that's because if you're reaching out and grabbing food with your feet, and sometimes that food is under the snow, it really helps to have a warm covering on your feet. So an owl's talons help it to catch its food, but we also need to think about some of those adaptations that would help an owl to find its food. And if we remember that many owls are hunting at night because they're nocturnal, then we need to think about things that will help them to see and hear better in the dark. So owls have really, really big eyes. And their eyes are so big, in fact, that the trade-off is that they can't move their eyeballs back and forth. They can't go like that. So they have a bony ring that holds it in place. So if an owl, you can give yourself some owl eyes just like this. If they wanted to look over there, they'd have to turn their whole head to the side. And then they'd have to turn their whole head to the other side. Or maybe to look up or down. And to help them with that, that's why they have all those extra vertebrae in their neck and they can turn their head almost all the way around, look over their shoulder. It's because they have to in order to look. And the last adaptations I wanted to talk about are the ones that help an owl to hear its prey. It's a little harder to notice because we can't actually see their ears under all those feathers, but if you could, an owl's ears are asymmetrical. One is a little bit higher than the other, and that helps them to really pinpoint exactly where a sound is coming from. And of course, listening for their prey wouldn't do them much good if they were making a lot of noise. So when owls fly, they can do so silently. And if you get to look really close up at the edge of an owl's wings, you'll see that it almost looks a little bit like a comb. And what that does is when the wing flaps, that comb breaks up the air so that it doesn't make a lot of noise when it's moving. And that helps them both to be able to listen for their prey and to keep their prey from hearing them coming. So now that we've learned about some of an owl's adaptations, I'm going to teach you a snowy owl action poem. It's time to stand up and move our bodies a little bit. So go ahead, get ready. And I'm going to say a line, and then you can repeat it and copy it at home with me. It goes like this. I'm a snowy owl with a pointed beak, 2 yellow eyes, and talons on my feet. I flap my wings, and when I stretch them wide, all the lemmings know that it's time to hide. Okay, let's try that all together now. Here we go. I'm a snowy owl with a pointed beak, 2 yellow eyes, and talons on my feet. I flap my wings, and when I stretch them wide, all the lemmings know that it's time to hide.
Thanks to Molly and Melissa for their fun and informative snowy owl activities. I hope you've learned more about these fascinating birds. I also hope that you'll visit us here at the Fields Pond Center. We're located at 216 Fields Pond Road in Holden, only 10 minutes from downtown Bangor. The center has over 220 acres of protected land surrounding beautiful Fields Pond. Many wildlife species make their homes here at Fields Pond, and there are a variety of habitats, including forests, fields, and wetlands. Our trails are open to the public from dawn to dusk, so you can enjoy nature year-round. We ask that you leave your dogs at home and practice leave no trace trail etiquette. Currently, our Nature Center building and classroom are closed due to the COVID pandemic, but we look forward to the day when it will reopen. In the meantime, we offer a number of programs for families and individuals online and outdoors with safe social distancing. You can find out more about those at maineaudubon.org. We also look forward to when we can resume our school programs with students from the greater Bangor area. Adventure backpacks are available for free checkout at both the Bangor and Brewer Public Libraries. These packs are designed to help you explore birds, wildlife, and plants in the outdoors. Thank you for joining us this evening. I hope we'll see you out here at Fields Pond sometime soon, and have a very happy New Year.
Hey, Marianne. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Doris.
Doris who?
Doris locked. That's why I'm knocking.
Happy New Year, scientists, and thank you for spending it here with me in the Challenger Space Lab. Tonight we're going to explore Saturn and what makes up those really interesting rings that it's known for. A quick little rundown. Saturn is a big planet. Did you know that more than 700 Earths can fit inside of it? Saturn's also a gas planet, and it's the 6th away from the Sun. Meanwhile, Earth is up close and cozy with the Sun at only 3 away. Now, all the planets in our solar system are constantly spinning in their own paths, following their own specific routes around the Sun. Because of that, the Earth isn't always the same distance away from Saturn from one day to the next. At its closest, the Earth is about 746 million miles away from Saturn. And at its farthest, it's over 1 billion miles away. So, How do we know anything about these rings? Galileo, an Italian astronomer, first saw Saturn's rings back in 1610 with a telescope. That was over 400 years ago. Since then, scientists from Earth have sent 4 unmanned spacecraft to explore Saturn's rings. And while they all took a different amount of time to get there, the most recent, Cassini, took just over 7 years to fly there. So, what did we learn from all these missions? Saturn's rings are about 240,000 miles wide. That's about the distance between the Earth and the Moon. But some of these rings themselves are only about 300 feet thick. So what makes up these rings? Are they like big solid hula hoops that are just swinging around Saturn? No. We learned that Saturn's rings are actually made up of millions of individual particles. Some of these particles are so small you would need a microscope to see them, while some are so big that they'd be larger than your school bus. From the looks of it, these particles are actually made up of pieces of rocks and ice. So why do all these tiny pieces look like rings and not just space confetti floating around Saturn? Great question, scientists. Let's figure it out. So for this activity, you're only going to need a couple simple things. And if you don't have them right now, that's okay. Just follow along and you can always grab them and do it at a separate time. So first thing you'll need is a little piece of paper. Second thing, a marker. Third thing, if you want, some tape or even a pencil. All right, so let's see how this all comes together.
So remember from earlier that all of these rings that Saturn has are made up of millions and millions of space particles. We think probably rocks and ice. So what makes them have this beautiful ring appearance and not just look like a bunch of rocks floating around in space? Well, that's what we're going to find out right now. So if you have your piece of paper, we're just going to start with making our little Saturn in the middle. And you can color this any color you like. This is just to show the planet itself. All right, now we're going to draw all those individual particles. And it's okay, we can just kind of put them how we think they might look. But the most important thing is that we put them in different rings. Now, Saturn itself has 7 major rings, each of which is actually made of many, many smaller rings. But for now, we'll just draw a couple. And remember, when you're drawing your particles, some of them are microscopic and some of them are the size of a school bus. So get creative with it. And we'll draw another one. And you can experiment with seeing what happens when you change the distance between your particles. And some of them can be really far away. Or even what happens when you don't fill them all in the same way. Okay, now that looks like just a bunch of dots, right? Surrounding our little planet Saturn here. Now let's see what happens when we get Saturn spinning the way that it would in space. So this is where you can either take your pencil or a little bit of tape. You can either just simply poke a hole through your planet, or you could tape it to the bottom of your paper like this. Perfect. All right, now I'm going to switch to my other view here, so bear with me and we'll get this planet spinning.
All right, so now we have our little Saturn planet here and all of our different sized space particles circling around it. And did you know that the average temperature on Saturn is negative 288 degrees Fahrenheit? No wonder there's all that ice stuck around it. So these individual space particles aren't just sitting still in space. All of Saturn's rings are actually zooming around it, spinning at all different speeds, giving us the illusion of the rings around Saturn. What happens to those individual dots that we drew? Are you seeing some rings starting to appear? Now that you have the basics down, you can start to get a little bit more creative with it and start to ask yourself questions like, what happens when the particles are a little bit closer together? Or what happens when they're further spaced out apart? And how does that change the way that the rings look here to us on Earth? And what effect does the makeup of the rings have, whether it's ice or rock and ice? And how does that change the way that they look when they're spinning at high speeds? So where do all the particles in these rings come from? Scientists actually aren't quite sure yet, but they think that some of it might be coming from pieces broken off of Saturn's 60 moons. But you know what? Maybe someday you can help them figure out the whole answer. Saturn isn't actually the only planet with rings. Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune have rings as well. They just aren't as big and bright as Saturn's. So now that you have the basics down, you can start to get a little bit more creative with it on your own and start to ask yourself questions like, how does the way the particles are spaced in the rings affect the way that we're seeing them on Earth? And what about the composition of the rings? How does it change when it's mostly made up out of rock, or mostly made of ice, or a combination of both? You can make these at home with just a few rocks and some glitter, or really whatever else you find around the house. Experiment to see how all those different components come together to make the beautiful rings of Saturn. Hey Neil, what's an astronaut's favorite computer key? The space bar. No? Hey Neil, what do aliens wear to their weddings? Space suits? No? Alright, you're gonna love this one. Did you know that Saturn's density is so low that it would float if you filled up your bathtub and popped it in there? But I wouldn't recommend doing that at home because it would leave a ring around the tub. I'll get him with one of these. In the meantime, Happy New Year from Challenger, and thanks for spending it with us, scientists. Bye!
Hey, Candace. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana who?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana who?
Knock, knock.
Who is there?
Orange.
Orange who?
Orange, you glad I didn't say banana again?
Greetings from the Versant Power Astronomy Center and Jordan Planetarium here at the University of Maine. My name is Sean Lotch. I'm the Center Director, and I look forward to sharing some of the beauty and wonder of our universe with you. Thank you for joining us for this New Year's Eve 2020 for a special event with the Bangor Public Library called A Maine's Winter Night. Tonight, we're going to share a little bit of the night sky with you, and I did want to begin by sharing a little bit about our Astronomy Center with you, just in case you hadn't had a chance to visit. We're located at the University of Maine, and we have the largest digital planetarium in the state of Maine, and most technologically advanced facility as well. We have a 10-meter dome with 50 seats, and we are open for regular public programs. We're going to be starting our schedule back up on January 5th and January 8th, and hope you can visit us. You can see all about it at our website, which we'll share with you a little bit later on. For now, let's go ahead and start looking at our night sky. To do so, I am going to begin by, of course, switching gears here to a program that we call Stellarium. And Stellarium is really nice. It allows us to do a variety of different things. And we're going to share that program with you here at on your screen here as part of our festivities this evening. So let me go ahead and do that. Here we have Stellarium. And we're facing the direction of southeast. And you might notice, probably the first thing you would notice if you went outside tonight, after it gets fully dark, around 6:30 tonight, you would see the moon in your evening sky. Now, the moon is just a couple days past a full moon. And so as a result, we have what we call a waning gibbous phase there in the night sky. The moon was full back on the 29th. So we have a couple days past. Great time to check out the moon if you have a pair of binoculars or just with your unaided eye. You'll easily see it there in your nighttime sky. Well, one of the things that we always like looking for in our night sky are something called constellations, which are basically simple connect the dot pictures, if you will, of the night sky. Well, here we have probably the most famous winter one right over here in the east-southeast. We're going to zoom in just a little bit so we can get a bit better view there, but two stars mark up its shoulders. Their names are Betelgeuse and Bellatrix. And then Rigel and Saiph mark up the legs. 3 additional stars, Alnitak, Elnalam, and Mintaka, are his famous belt. And Orion has sort of a faint shield out in front of him and his sort of club raised overhead. Orion, the great hunter and warrior. If we draw him in as a simple stick figure, he would look again like this. He's been called Long Sash by Native Americans, also known as Osiris, the god of the dead, by the Egyptians, and even Shen in certain areas of China. So lots of different ways of seeing this. But he does look at least like a stick figure of a person, and constellations are just that. They're connect-the-dot pictures in the nighttime sky. You need a lot of imagination sometimes to see them, but Orion is pretty easy to spot. Now, if you find Orion, you can draw a line through his belt, up and to the right, and you'll come to Aldebaran, the eye of Taurus the bull. And this V-shaped group is called the Hyades. It marks the face of the bull. And if you extend it out, you would come to the tips of Taurus's horns. On his back is a little cluster of stars that people often mistake for one of the Dippers because it looks that way, but it's really an open cluster called the Pleiades, or 7 sisters. In Hawaii, they call it Makali'i, meaning the little eyes. Well, regardless of how you see it, one thing to note is that if you ever look at a Subaru automobile, that's the way the Japanese see it, you'll notice those stars on a Japanese car, the Subaru, on part of the hood emblem. Well, Taurus sort of looks like he's charging at Orion. That might be why Orion has that shield of stars up in front of him. In fact, we can draw these pictures in there in our night sky with some fanciful figures. There is Orion and Taurus. Now, a long time ago, people had stories about these constellations in the night sky. And there's one favorite story of Orion I have, which is how he ended up in the night sky to begin with. Orion was this really great hunter, and he used to catch pretty much whatever he was hunting for. Well, this worried Mother Earth, or Gaia. So one day she decided to send a giant scorpion to fight a battle with Orion. The two fought for several days. In the end, the scorpion stung Orion in his heart. But as he was dying, he crushed it with his club. Well, Diana, the goddess of the moon and of hunting, loved Orion. So she placed him in the winter sky and changed him into stars. And she took the scorpion and placed it in the summertime sky, changing it into stars as well. So the two are at opposite ends of the heavens and could never battle again. So we see Orion in our winter season, and we see the scorpion in our summer one. Well, Orion is pretty easy to spot. He does look like he's battling with Taurus the bull. Some folks say it might be over those 7 sisters there in the night sky. Well, let me turn off those constellation drawings for a moment. If we come back to Orion, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. And just a little bit above our moon tonight, you're going to notice 2 bright stars there as well. These are the Gemini twins, Castor and Pollux. And their bodies come down right towards Orion like this. They're supposed to be 2 twin brothers there in the night sky. Here's how they might look if you were to draw them in. And with a bit more imagination, here are those 2 twin brothers known as Gemini there in the night sky. So we have Orion, Taurus, and Gemini along with our moon, all visible here in the east-southeast as soon as it gets dark. Well, if I pull back out here a little bit, I'm going to zoom out just a bit. And if you find Orion in the night sky and Taurus just a little bit past it, you're going to notice the planet Mars. Mars is relatively bright and easy to spot. It's not as good as it was back in October when it reached its closest point to Earth for 2020. But it is still quite bright and easy to spot there in the night sky. Now, if you got outside right away after sunset, you might have noticed Jupiter and Saturn low over in the southeast. They're going to set about an hour and a half after the sun goes down. But back on the 21st of this month of December, we had them in a conjunction. They reached their closest point to each other in almost 400 years. If you missed that, you still can see Jupiter and Saturn. They're going to be starting to spread out from each other, but do look for them as soon as it gets dark over in your southwestern sky after sunset. Well, let's go ahead and rotate around our directions here a little bit. We're going to move till we head and face the direction of north. And one of the reasons I want to do so, we'll zoom in here just a little bit, is in the north, we have probably one of the most familiar constellations after Orion in our night sky, and that is the Big Dipper. These 7 stars through here form the Big Dipper. 3 stars mark the handle of the dipper, 4 more mark the bowl. It looks a lot like a pot or pan that you might have on a stove at home. But the Big Dipper is actually part of a larger group called the Great Bear. So those 4 stars mark up the body. 3 out in front that are a faint triangle are the bear's head. The front legs head down this direction. Here are those hind legs, and these 3 stars become the tail. So if we draw in that bear, here is that great bear there. Now, if you just see the dipper portion, you can use those first 2 stars named Dewey and Merrick to draw a line out the open end, almost as if you're flipping a pancake, and they will point you up to this star here, Polaris, or the North Star. It's not very bright, but it stays stationary over the course of the night. That's why we can use it to find our direction north. Of the 50 brightest in the sky, it's 43rd, so not very bright at all. Well, it's at the end of the handle of the Little Dipper, which is fainter and looks more like a spoon or maybe a ladle there in the night sky. If we draw it, there it is. It's also called the Little Bear. Now, with lots of imagination, you could draw in these bears, which have really long tails. And most folks think that's because those bears were grabbed by their short stubby tails, swung around, and then released into the sky once their tails had stretched out. So earthly bears have long tails, or short tails, excuse me, and these heavenly ones have short ones, according to one story about them. Well, whether you prefer the bears or the dippers, these 2 groups of stars are visible year-round here in Maine. So any time of the year you can see them, unlike Orion, which is only visible during the winter time. Well, I hope you have some clear skies that you can get out and view some of the beauty and wonder of Maine's night sky. See Orion, see the Big Dipper and the Great Bear, and Gemini, and even Taurus the Bull there too. All righty, well, with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here of Stellarium for a moment. And what I'd like to do now is just jump back to our slides for a few final things. And that is that if you have a chance to visit us here at the Planetarium, you can see some of our regular public programs, of course. And that is one of the things that we can do. Also, I will mention that we do have a special program online right now called the Universe Explorers of Maine. And this allows folks to take a look through some robotic telescopes. And every Friday night at 8:30, we typically do these online star parties. So if you're interested, check it out on our website, and you can join SLU and join our star parties. Our next one coming up will be on December 8th. So next week, Friday. Alrighty, well, that being said, we do hope that you're interested in your night sky. You can learn more about the night sky by going to our website, astro.umaine.edu, or Jordan Planetarium on Facebook. And we always have a variety of astronomy news, plus updates on our program and special events there too. Well, thanks again so much for joining us for a Maine's winter night sky and exploring your night sky with us. Have a safe and wonderful New Year's and happy 2021. Take care.
Hey, Shane. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Ida.
Ida who?
I'm sorry, it's pronounced Idaho.
Hello, happy New Year's Eve, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the Thomas School of Dance for our New Year's Eve celebration dance class. I'm Cassie Pillsbury, Director of Thomas School of Dance. I'm pleased to introduce you to Danielle Barrett, who will be teaching your class. Enjoy.
Hey everyone! As Cassie said, my name is Danielle, and I'm going to be teaching your class today. Happy New Year! I'm so excited to move and groove with you. We're going to start with a quick little warm-up, then we're going to learn some cool steps, and then we're going to stick it all together into a combination you can do over and over again. So our warm-up is just going to be follow along. We're going to start with some jumping jacks, we're going to go into some high knees, some kickbacks, and some grooving it out. Let's get started. So we start with 8 jumping jacks. We'll do it all together. Bounce with the music, just feel the groove. The 4, we start. 5, 6, 7, 8. Jumping jacks go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have high knees for 8. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. We have kickbacks for 8. We have 8, 7, 6, 5. And groove it out however you want for 8. I'm going to dance like this. You can dance however you want. We're going to do the whole thing again. We go up 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. High knees. We warm. Woo! Alrighty, so next we're going to learn some cool new steps. With these cool new steps, I want to start off by saying you can do whatever you want with your arms. I'm going to focus on everything that happens from here down, but you can do whatever you want with your arms during this. Also, while I'm explaining things, I'm going to be mirroring you. So I'm going to act just like your mirror image. So this side, when I move this side, I want you to move your right side. When I move this side, I want you to move your left side. So, the first step we are going to learn is called a passe. Now, a passe looks like this. From the side, looks like this. Now, when I'm in this passe, you can see that my leg is making a triangle right up here. It kind of reminds me of like a sailboat sail. If you've ever been to like Camden or Bar Harbor and seen the boats in the water, that's kind of what that reminds me of. So we have our sailboat on this side. We can do our sailboat on the other side, like this. Now, there are a couple of different ways we can make our sailboat a little bit trickier, right? When I'm in my sailboat like this, you can see that my standing leg is flat on the ground. I can become a little bit taller. I can grow my sailboat by going up on releve, up on my toes like that. You can see on the other side, going up on my toes like that. Exactly. We can do one more little like jump to make it a little bit trickier by starting with one leg in front, one leg in behind, and we can take our sailboat into a nice little turn. We can try it on the other side. Nice little turn. So we have 3 options for our sailboats. We can be on flat, like this. Do some flat with me, and go flat. 2 more, on flat, and on flat. Or we can have a nice tall sailboat up on releve, tall sailboat, and switch. And tall sailboat, and switch. One more on the other side. And then, if you're really feeling spicy, we can turn our sailboat, go around, and the other way, around. 2 more, around. Last one, around. Beautiful. The next step we're going to learn is called a top rock. So again, I'm mirroring you, so this is my right side, and this is my left side. I'm going to take my right leg, I'm going to touch it in front, and step back. And touch it in front, and step back. And touch it in front, and step back. And touch it in front, and step back. Now, as I mentioned before, you can kind of do whatever you want with your arms. I swing mine. You can throw yours up. You can throw yours back. Whatever you want to do with them, it's all about finding the groove, your own dance moves, whatever you want. So kind of rock back and forth with me like this, bopping like this, having a good time. Oh, y'all are top rock stars. The last step that we're going to learn is called a kick cross ball change. So, I'm going to take my right leg, I'm going to kick it in front, I'm going to cross my legs, I'm going to step back on my left leg, and step forward on my right leg. I'm going to show it from the side so you can kind of see where my legs are going forward and back and such. I'm going to take my right leg in front and cross. Step back, and when I step back, you can see I'm making another triangle with my legs and the ground. And this triangle kind of reminds me of a really, really tall mountain, all right? So I want you to think about making a mountain, and then we're going to step over a mountain because we're really tall giants, right? And then we step. On the other side, we kick, we cross, we make our mountain, and because we're giants, we step over a mountain, nice and tall. I'm going to face this way. We go kick and cross, make our mountains, step over our mountains. One more time, kick and cross, make our mountains, step over our mountains. Now I'm going to show it 4 times facing the back. When I face the back, I'm no longer going to be mirroring you, okay? So, I'm going to turn around, and I'm just going to show it off 4 times. It goes. Kick. Number 2, kick. Number 3. And number 4. All right, we're going to stick all of those steps together into like a baby combination before we do our big combination. So we're going to do 8 passes or sailboats. We're going to do 8 top rocks, and then we're going to do 4 kick cross ball changes. All right, We're going to do it with some music. I'm going to mirror you. I'm going to face you for this, so that way I can talk to you. So we're going to do 8 of these. Boom, boom, boom. 4 more times. We're going to do 8 of these. Boom, 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 boom. 4 more times. And we're going to do 4 of these. Alrighty? Let's do it with some music. Here we go. Feel free to bounce with the music, just like in the warm-up. Find our groove. Here we go. We have passing and switch. Passing and switch. Passing and switch. Passing. Halfway there we have passing and switch. And switch. And up. And switch. Now we have our 8 top rocks. We have 1 and 8. 2 and 8. 3 and 8. 4. 4 more. We go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now our kick cross ball changes. We go kick and cross. Make your mountain. Over your mountain. 1 more time. And cross. Make your mountain. Again we go kick and cross. Make your mountain. Over your mountain. Last time. Cross. Make your mountain. Over your mountain. Oh my goodness gracious. You are a dancing star. Look at all those steps that you learned. You've got your passes. You've got your top rocks. You've got your kick cross ball changes. That's amazing. We're next going to stick them all together into a combination. Alrighty, let's get started on this combo. So it's going to start with 2 steps to the back, starting with our right leg. We go back for 2. Then we take 2 steps going forward for 2. And when we step back, our arms are going to go up towards the sky. So we go up to the sky. And then when we go forward, our arms go to the ground. We go down to the ground. So all together, it goes up to the sky, down to the ground. Let's do that all together. We go 5, 6, 7, 8. Going up to the sky, down to the ground. Again, 5, 6, 7, 8. Going up to the sky, down to the ground. Last time, 5, 6, 7, 8. Up to the sky, down to the ground. Great. Moving forward, your right leg should be free. We're going to take a step together to the right. We go step together, and then we're going to do the same thing to the left. Step together. So adding that on from the top, we go 5, 6, 7, 8. Up to the sky, down to the ground. We go step together, step together. Let's do that one more time. We go 5, 6, 7, 8. Up to the sky, down to the ground. We go step together, step together. Great. Moving forward, we have our left foot free. We're going to do a top rock, cross together, and we're going to do another one going across together. All right? From the top, we go 5, 6, 7, 8. Going up to the sky, down to the floor. Step together, top and rock, top, rock. Let's do that again. We go 5, 6, 7, 8. Up to the sky, down to the ground. We go step together, top, rock. I'm going to turn around, face the back. I still want you to face me. I'm just going to show it facing this way. Going 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. We're going to move forward. There's just a little bit left. So we just went top, rock, rock. You're going to take your left leg. You're going to go kick, cross, make your mountain, over your mountain, and then, almost done, you're going to take that back leg, you're going to stick it to the ground, and we're going to go into our sailboat. Remember, you can be a sailboat on the ground, a growing sailboat, or a turning sailboat. All right? So that last part that we just added on after the top, rock, we take our left leg, we kick, we cross, make our mountain, over our mountain, stick that back leg down into our passe. And at the very end, I want you to strike a pose. Boom, or boom, or boom, or whatever type of pose you want. Let's go from the very beginning without some music first, then we'll try adding some music, okay? So from the very beginning, we go 5, 6, 7, 8. It goes up, up, down, down. Step together, step together. We go top, rock, top, rock. Left foot goes kick, cross. Make your mountain, over your mountain. Stick that back leg down, passe, and pose. Amazing. Why don't we try that with some music, all right? I'm still gonna face this way. I'll count you in. Let's do this. Let's bounce with the music, find our groove. It's a little bit speedier, but I know you've got it. I believe in you. I'll count you in. We go 5, 6, from the top. It goes up, up, down, down. Step together, top, rock, top, rock. Left leg goes kick, cross, make your mountain, over mountain, passe, straight up pose. Amazing. So the great thing about this combination is we can do it again and again and again. So what we are going to do is we are going to try doing it 4 times in a row. All right, and I want you to give it all of your energy, all of your excitement. Let's do it 4 times in a row. After that pose, we start over. All right, let's bounce with the music. And I'll count you in. We have 8 counts to cruise. I'll count you in. 5, 6. Here we go. 5, 6. From the top, we go up, up, down, down. Step, step. Top right, top right. We have kick, cross, make your mountain, over mountain. Straight pose. Again, we go up 1, down. Top rock, go up. And 2. Left foot goes kick, cross, make your mountain, over mountain. Passe, straight pose. Again, we go up 1. Step together, top, rock, top, rock. We go kick, cross, make your mountain, over mountain, passe, straight pose. Last time, we go up 1. Step, go top, rock, we go kick, make your mountain, over your mountain, passe, and final pose, boom. From all of us at Thomas School of Dance, we hope you have a happy new year and thank you for dancing with us.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow who? Oh, good one.
Good evening. My name is Jim Tyson. I'm here at the Challenger Learning Center of Maine, seated in front of our life support console, where in our simulated missions, our life support officers see to the health and safety of the crew. We'd like to thank Bangor Public Library for giving us this opportunity to see you tonight and to wish you a happy, happy New Year. Right now, I am going to walk us all through a demonstration of a quick and easy science experiment that we can all do at home. So one moment while I adjust the camera. Very good, here I am, I'm back. You can see the apparatus that I use. It's fairly simple. I've got some ice cubes in a bowl right here. I've got some salt right here. I've got 3 different types of string that I'm going to use to demonstrate this experiment. And we call this experiment fishing for ice cubes. And it actually has to do a lot with the science of how ice behaves. So, to quickly demonstrate this, I'm going to take this piece of string first, and I'm going to lay it so that it is draped across one of these ice cubes in this bowl. I'm going to take a little bit of the salt. There's a little bit of salt. Notice it doesn't take very much. In fact, I may have more than I need here, and I'm going to sprinkle it on top of the ice cube right along the string. All right, and now I'm going to wait. While I'm waiting, I'm going to use a completely different type of string. This is more like yarn than it is string. Again, I'm going to lay it along the top of an ice cube right there. I'm going to take my salt, which I didn't spill very much, and I'm going to sprinkle it right along the top of that ice cube with the string on it. Takes a little while for this to work, so we'll hope that's good. And while that one is, we're waiting for that one, I will take my third set of string. This is just a shoelace. And I'm going to use that right over there where I can get at it. Again, this time, because the shoelace is so wide, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of salt on first and then put the shoelace on top of the salt. Because otherwise, I'm afraid the salt will not reach the ice. So there's a little bit of salt, and I'm going to take the shoelace and push it right down on top of where I just sprinkled the salt. There we go. If they wait around too long, of course, they'll be floating in water like this. So here's a glass full of, oops, let me get that where you can see it. A glass full of water with a few ice cubes floating at the top. Ice is a very interesting substance. Most things, when they turn solid, are heavier than the liquid. Ice is one of the exceptions to that. Another interesting thing about all things, both melt and freeze at exactly the same temperature. So my glass full of ice cubes right here with sitting in water, right up at the top where the ice cubes are at least, the water and the ice cubes are the same temperature. And the only reason the ice will eventually melt is some of that heat that is contained in the air around it keeps trying to warm up the water, which means that some of the ice has to melt to maintain the same temperature. Now, our experiment's been running for about a minute. I'm going to attempt to see if I have caught an ice cube. Uh-oh, I think my ice cube is glued down. There we go. And I have caught an ice cube. There we go. So let's try some of the other strings and see if they also manage to catch ice cubes. Let's try the yarn. Oh, it's trying to stick, but it came loose. Oh dear, that one did not work nearly as well. Yeah, let me try the shoelace as well. Nothing at all. So when I put the string across the ice cube and sprinkle salt on that ice cube, the top of that ice cube, where the salt came in contact, had a lower freezing point, and so a little bit of the ice cube melted. But as the salt got diluted and the water ran off a little bit or soaked into the rest of the ice cube, the water that was left on top that had soaked into the string froze back again. That is our fishing for ice cubes experiment for the evening. I hope that was informative, and I hope you have a wonderful and happy New Year. Good night, everybody.
Hey, Shane, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Tank.
Tank who?
Thank who for watching.
Oh, every time. Hey, Jennifer, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Dewey,
Dewey who?
do we have to say goodbye? Hey, Jennifer, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Timed.
Time two.
Time to say goodbye.